This is EA Worldview's 4-step guide to creating the al-Qaeda threat. Step 1. Find a really catchy title. Let's try Bin Ladenism. That's good because it invokes the image of that guy who blew up the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and hung around for about a decade in Afghanistan, but mainly Pakistan, until we finally killed him in 2011. But if you say Bin Ladenism, it means he's still around, at least in spirit. There's still the prospect that someone else will be committing terrorism. Don't take it from me because it's not my term. Take that from a guy named Peter Bergen, a guy who once upon a time interviewed bin Laden, and then for the last 2 decades has used that to put himself forward as the expert who can explain the al-Qaeda threat to us. He explained how bin Ladenism is the new concept that explains how al-Qaeda has transformed itself. Al-Qaeda 2.0 for our world that is still endangered. Step 2, create a catchy brand. Now there's a problem with al-Qaeda as a brand right now because quite frankly, it's a few guys in Pakistan who are making ideological statements and hoping that someone out there will listen to them and act. Well, that's not really good enough to give us a menace, is it? Instead, what we have to do is take a series of groups who might not be in Pakistan. You know, they might be in North Africa, they could be in Yemen, they could be in Somalia, they could be in Europe. And what we do is we call them affiliates of al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda franchises. You know, sort of like McDonald's and KFC. Even if Ronald McDonald's not around or you can't even remember Colonel Sanders, well, those offshoots are still there and stronger than ever. Step 3, tie it to the notion of the enemy. You know, enemy's always going to get the response that you need, right? So somehow these affiliates of al-Qaeda, or even as the U.S. government said earlier this year, affiliates of al-Qaeda, they're waiting outside your door. They're sitting in your parking lot. They're planting bombs in your bin. They're waiting for you. And you can invoke that enemy at any time, at any point. Don't listen to me. Let's talk about Israel's Minister of Agriculture, Yair Shamir. He gets asked to write an article for Foreign Policy magazine, which I think is pretty important. And he simply says, if we in the West wish to stand in the way of this malevolent terror from Boston to the Middle East, we must first understand its vision, its true nature, and its goals. Only then can it be conquered. So, you've got an enemy, you need to conquer it. How do you do it? You invoke the brand, the affiliates of al-Qaeda, and step 4, you apply it to any situation. You know, this is the beauty of it. Because, hey, if it's really too complex to understand how a gas plant in Algeria could have been taken over earlier this year by the followers of a man who primarily smuggled guns, profited off kidnappings, well, just call him somehow an affiliate of al-Qaeda. You know, you got a real problem in Libya because suddenly there was an attack on the U.S. consulate and the ambassador was killed. Don't try to understand that country after the Arab Spring. Just say affiliates of al-Qaeda. Best of all, you can use it for something like Syria. Why not just simply look and say, maybe al-Qaeda is involved? Maybe a group like Jabhat al-Nusra, which is Islamist, isn't just Islamist. They're following those al-Qaeda guys. And if you can just simply say, al-Qaeda equals Islamist equals Jabhat al-Nusra, then the task of actually going any further is solved. You just have to repeat it again and again and again. Stop. Don't create the threat. Disarm it. What if we didn't scribble the word al-Qaeda and scribble a slogan like bin Ladenism and then impose that on every situation we find? What if we went back to Syria and Jabhat al-Nusra? What if we actually looked at the statements of that group, looked at the videos they put out? What if we looked at the actions they're carrying out, not just on the battlefield, but in the towns and villages where they have pushed out the regime? What if we actually listened and heard the declaration of their leaders that Jabhat al-Nusra, first and foremost, is a Syrian group, which claims, whether or not you believe it, to stand with the Syrian people? What if we looked at them in their context, rather than forcing one upon it, which suits our preconceptions and suits our easy misreasoning? Because invoking al-Qaeda doesn't solve problems. It merely creates more. It alienates people. It turns people against you because they look and say, it is not a question of with us or against us. You don't even understand us.